XRP and XLM fans are asking the same big question. When moon? Well, this video is going to go over some big events and timetables that are going to let us know when we could start seeing some action happen. So let's leave this screen and go into this one. Bitcoin right now fighting to hold 20,000. All of this negative pressure coming after Jerome Powell talking at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, saying, hey, he's going to do whatever he has to in order to get inflation back down to 2%. And think we're at 8.5% now. But when moon? All right, we got XRP represented in purple, XLM represented in light blue, comparing each other since the November time frame, basically when we're all agreeing that the crypto winter started. So we're going to use this chart in mind as we go over a few stories because we're going to talk about when moon. Most of the responses to Joe Biden's crypto executive order are due next week. Yes, it has been almost 120 days since Joe Biden said, hey, get me info on crypto, on CBDCs. We need to get regs going. Now, don't expect any big groundbreaking news coming out of this that are going to rock the crypto markets. This is just meant for information gathering so they can come up with better ideas of how to regulate crypto going forward. So don't be too afraid about this. And I wouldn't expect anything big positive coming out of this. I wouldn't expect the SEC going, hey, we're going to back off of crypto. Nope, nothing like that is going to come out of this. A lot of information, though, is going to be used from this executive order in order to build crypto regulation going forward. So that's not the big event, but this here is the big one. All right, September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is the next release of the CPI data. We got to talk inflation because when moon is going to have to deal with inflation and Jerome Powell and the Fed and what he said at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So we know inflation is the big concern right now that is choking the market. Why? Because as inflation goes up, the Fed is going to just start raising rates to choke the demand side of the economy, and raising rates makes businesses, homes, everything more expensive to do. So now let's look at the Fed funds rates and put things into perspective. All right, I've got right now the 1-year chart up on the screen, and you can see for the majority of this last year, Fed's fund rate has been pretty darn close, near to zero. But now you can see after the last several meetings, we have seen a huge bump up in points. Here you go from 1 to 2.5. That's the 275 back-to-back basis points hits that we've seen from the Fed. Back-to-back 40-year record basis point hits. They're big stuff coming from the Fed. Now, this doesn't look too crazy, but let's zoom it out now to the 5-year. Now, in the 5-year, you can see during the Rona period, the Fed dropped the rates down next to nothing so that businesses could borrow and keep operating during the downturn of the Rona. Now, look at the time before that. Zoom out to 10 years. You're going to see again, we had a low rate for the Fed fund rate. And then again, we had a slower creeping up. Now, this slower creeping up, the markets are able to digest that a lot easier than this movement right here. Look how sharp the slope is from this 0.5 to this 2.5. It took only several meetings for that to happen. Now, the same thing from here. Look at this. In 2016, it took almost up to 2019 in order to make that same percentage point gain. So what it took 4 months of markets recently in order to get the Fed fund rates up, it took 3 years in its previous time to do. Now let's zoom out even further because this is going to talk about more when moon. Let's now go to the 25-year chart. Now you can see we are historically very low right now over the last 25 years when it comes to the Fed fund rate. Now inflation is at 8.5. Jerome Powell said they need to get inflation down back to 2.0. You are going to see this line right here go even further and further past the 4s and close into the 6s for the Fed fund rate, something we haven't seen in almost 22 years. So now let's zoom out that little bit further and talk about other big macroeconomic events that are going to shape the whole when moon time frame for Stellar XLM and Ripple Labs XRP. The SEC versus XRP case. We know crypto will not have a big chance of mooning because we need that U.S. institutional money to come in, and that's what the SEC case is holding up. They're blocking a lot of institutional money from flowing into crypto. So SEC XRP case, we know that's not going to get done in 2022. We have seen the SEC drag their feet at almost every available occasion. We know that's going to extend well into 2023. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase also says, hey, crypto winter will last us 12 to 18 months. Now, if we go from the start of the crypto winter, November, 12 months from there puts us November of this year, 2022. 18 months puts us into what, everyone? May of 2023. So think of Fed's rates, right, trying to tackle and crush that inflation, right? Now think of Armstrong saying, hey, 12 to 18 months. And he's citing this saying, hey, there's going to be slow trading volume. Retail money is just going to be kind of put off to the side because interest rates are going up because of the Fed. So again, 12 to 18 months, that puts us in November of this year to somewhere in May of next year. Again, those time frames for when moon are not lining up so much in this year. They're being pushed more and more to the center part of 2023. So when it comes to the question of when moon for Stellar Lumens, XLM, and Ripple Labs XRP, honestly, my opinion is I don't think we're going to see this anytime soon. Way too much stuff going on right now with inflation. Think Jerome Powell and the Fed are going to raise interest rates, and I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 12 to 18 months, you would see the Fed's base rate at 600 basis points. Could you imagine how much more credit cards are going to cost? How much more buying a home, car? Yeah, so if you're going to be buying a home or a car in the next few years, guess what? The Fed's raising rates are going to make that way more expensive for you, which is going to pull more available money out of the crypto market, which means we're not going to see a when moon event until we're done with inflation and the markets start getting money for cheaper and we start seeing more regs hitting the market. It looks more and more like we're not going to see big bullish action until 2023.